Hello everyone.
I don't know, do these work?
Work? Yeah.
Thanks. Sarina, we can get into the tactics and the breakdown, but how much does tonight hurt?
Yeah, of course that hurts. I'd hoped a total different game. That should have been. I expected a very tight game, of course, very competitive game. But I think there was a difference tonight. So that's, of course, really disappointing, and that hurts.
Where does the blame lie? What went wrong?
Well, I actually think we start pretty good. But soon in the game, of course, they got their first goal. There was a deflection, but we lost it in a moment that you don't want to lose it. And then we run into it, and then deflection, that was unlucky. But after that, we didn't get momentum anymore. I think we were really struggling to keep the ball and find the passes further away or in behind. And I think they played really well, and we didn't play so well. But also out of possession, we were really struggling to stay compact, especially on our own half. They did something different when we wanted to press a bit higher too. And yeah, at moments the connections weren't so good, and they found the space straight away. So I thought they played really well too, and they exploit that straight away.
You think about when England have been at their best, they've been resilient, mentally strong. Was that lacking tonight?
Well, I just think if I bring it back to how we played, we just didn't play good enough, and we couldn't step up anymore. Even they became dangerous, but we couldn't get to another gear and keep the ball and go forward and create chances. One bet had one later on in the game, but we hardly got into the 18-yard box. So we were just really struggling, and even then out of possession, they could get out of the press straight away all the time.
Do you get angry? Do you get frustrated? Do you let the players see that? Do performances like that?
Well, first of all, what I'm trying to do now, what does this, what caused this? And you have to deal with a very good opponent, but I think we're a good team too, and see, okay, what went really wrong? You bring it back to what was our game plan? Did we execute that really well? I don't think so. I don't think we did that really well. Caused a bit by ourselves, but also caused by Spain. And yes, of course, I'm frustrated and I'm very disappointed, but so are the players. And this hurts because we have lost a couple of times, but never more than one goal. So that's not nice.
We'll go to Emma next. We'll go to Emma session.
Hey Sarina, just kind of on that last point about losing by a larger margin, to maybe someone who has looked at the scoreline and they're thinking, wow, like that's a little bit something to be concerned about. I suppose, what would your message be to them?
My message to the team?
No, to fans that look at the scoreline and maybe are starting to think, oh wow, that's quite a big scoreline. I'm a little bit worried about that. What would your response?
Of course, it's not a great scoreline, and it's hard, it's disappointing, and I think there was a big difference tonight between ourselves and Spain, and we want to take that out. So the first thing you think about, how can we do better? Well, we have another game, of course, on Tuesday. And first now what we do is reviewing this and then recover and stick together and play a good game on Tuesday and then move forwards. And yeah, you want to prevent these things, of course. But yeah, that scoreline is not great.
And obviously there's still multiple ways to get to the World Cup. Obviously, depending on what happens on Tuesday, there could be a playoff route. But just talk us through maybe the challenges and the complications that tonight's result might have on your preparations for hopefully getting to Brazil.
Well, we know if we qualify, then there's a different preparation than when we don't qualify. And first of all, we're really focusing on Tuesday. So we want to get a good performance against Tuesday and show who we are. And win, of course, that's the most important thing. And after that, we know what it's about and what we're going to, what's our program? Well, not yet, probably, but, you know, Spain has to go to Iceland too. We have seen how hard that game is. And let's first see what happens Tuesday. And there could be two routes. And one is that we qualify still while dependent on Spain. And of course win ourselves. And the second is that we have to go in playoffs.
Just finally from me, the fact that, let's say you win on Tuesday, you could potentially have missed out on automatic qualification because you've won 5 out of 6 games but lost to the world champions. I mean, that feels quite unfair, doesn't it?
That feels like the European competition is really competitive. And it has become since the Nations League set up. So it says how strong Europe is. And yeah, this is the way it is. So yeah.
Thank you.
We're going to Kit next.
Hi, Sarina. If Spain play as well as they did tonight, are your England team capable of beating them?
I think we could. I think they did. Sorry, I think they did play really well. I think we can compete with them in any way. Can you please be quiet?
Sarina, some water. Yeah, you want some?
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Shut up. So, yeah.
Back to your Spain.
produce, yeah.
I think we have to be at our best. We always had to be at our best to beat Spain, but we have to be at our very best to be able to compete with this Spain.
Cross check. There was no Aggie Beaver Jones in the matchday squad today, and so I don't know. It might have been useful to have another potential goal scorer to come off the bench. We needed a chase game in the second half. Can you just explain the thinking behind her not being in the squad today?
Yeah, we have. We can only have 23 players in the squad, and we want to have the balance. Of course, to have options in the back, options in the middle, and up front. And we had a couple of options, which you saw today was with Bet and Chloe, and we also had Freya on the bench with a lot of pace. She's done well for London City, so that was the decision behind that.
Thanks. And finally, this is the heaviest defeat for an England team in 17 years. So this is a significant one.
I didn't hope to. That was not a good statistic.
Yeah. Aside from getting a result against Ukraine, what do you need and want to see from your players in the next 3 or 4 days?
Yeah, a reaction that we're a team and that we're a very strong team, and to play a very good game on Tuesday, that we stick together. That's the most important thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Go to Karis. We'll keep it to 2 questions from now.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Sarina. You mentioned earlier that you didn't think the game plan was quite executed. Can you tell us a little bit about what was the game plan? Because obviously, as we've kind of mentioned, the head-to-head record was really important. What was the game plan going into this one?
Yeah, at moments we want to press high, and then moments 1-3-1 in the back. Then so on the half, I think they then played straight over our press, and even if we then would drop a little bit, then they would play. So they could come out of that press well. And when we're in a lower block, it's really important against Spain to be really compact. To not being dragged out too quickly, because they have so many rotations, and they really want to drag you out, then exploit the space just right behind you or in behind the defense. And I think at moments we were too expensive, and they had the opportunity to play out. But they also played a little more dynamic than they did before, and had more runs in behind with different players. So I think they did that well. And in possession, we wanted to get out of that first press with the long ball at moments, but also skip players. We had to skip players and go forward. And we were really struggling with that. And then when we would, then we just couldn't keep the ball good enough to then get on their half of the pitch.
And just quickly from me as well, I think it feels like it's been a theme of kind of your time with England, these players coming off the bench in attack and really changing the game. I wonder if you feel like you have players who can do that in defence when the defence isn't working as you would like it to. How do you feel about changing the defence mid-game?
Yeah, well, we changed late in the game, didn't we? So I think they didn't have long enough to really give them an impact. I think Jess and Neve came on. It was short, but I think what they came on, that was okay.
We'll go to Tom next.
Oh, Sarina, thanks for your time. And it's easy to think about these things with the benefit of hindsight, of course, but do you wish maybe that England had been a bit more defensively set up, maybe with either a back five or three deep midfielders to try and come in for the draw? What do you think about that?
Yeah, no, I don't think. Of course, that like before we go into camp, we talk about everything and all the options we have. But it also gives a message to the team. If you go with five, you can hardly get. We've done that before in the World Cup, and we wanted them to get to three, and we never get out of that press. So we have some experiences with that. But also you have like one really tactical training session with the team. So I don't want to change that much to get as much clarity as possible. And we did talk about a couple of things, how then sometimes we would be pushed back with a five, but we never came to that moment today.
Obviously, last summer you've shown you can beat Spain. Even in April, you've beaten Spain. So it's clearly very possible. But are you also struck by the gulf in the technical ability? You know, if we put the 22 players out there tonight into like a skills test, like clearly Spain are gonna win that. Like, are you worried longer term that they're producing such wonderful players compared to the rest of the world?
Well, I'm not really worried about what you see, what Spain could show tonight. And I think that's your question. The amount of players they can bring on the pitch who are regular starters too. They have just a lot of depth, and it just shows how good Spain is in this era, I would say.
Thank you.
We'll go to Catherine next.
Hi, Sarina. I wondered if you'd considered making a change at half-time when you were 2-0 down. I think Beth Mead and Chloe Kelly were going through their warm-ups early in the second half, but by the time they came on, obviously the third goal had gone in. I wondered if you'd considered maybe bringing them on at half-time.
No. Well, of course you consider everything, but as pretty quick we thought, okay, let's first get together and say, okay, what can we do better, and give that opportunity. And then into the second half we can make changes, and that's what we did.
And it's not like your team, when they concede a few goals, to not come back into a game. We've seen that happen before at Belgium and against Germany, where they've conceded a few, but they've managed to find a way to at least fight back. And you put your finger on why that we didn't see that tonight?
Yeah, I think that's bringing back to that we weren't at our best tonight, and Spain was, and they just didn't let us get back in the game again, unfortunately.
We'll take one final question. Yeah.
Hi, Sarina. Santi Baldovino for Flepe Football FM. I want to ask you, why do you think this has been the match that Spain has dominated England the most in recent years? Thanks.
Why?
Why? Yeah.
Because Spain played really well tonight, so congratulations with your country. And we weren't at our best, and I think that's a bit on us, but it's also a bit on what Spain did today, and how well they played. Thank you, and hope you the best for the rest of the tournament. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.